Caitlin Clark might have been the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, but did you know she was underrated in high school? Caitlin Clark was ranked the 7th best player in the country in the 2020 high school recruiting class. So let's talk about the 6 players ranked ahead of her, who they are, what happened to them, and where they are now. Starting off with the #1 prospect Paige Bueckers, the original media darling who was considered a generational guard prospect. Paige was a child prodigy who was playing for the high school varsity team while in 8th grade. In high school, she raked up multiple accolades. She was Minnesota's Gatorade Player of the Year as a sophomore. She was the first second-year player to win Metro Player of the Year in 34 years. Then as a junior, she won a state championship, leading her school to a 32-0 record. And after averaging 24.4 points, 5.1 assists, 4.9 rebounds, and an insane 4.6 steals per game, she was one of the 3 finalists for National Player of the Year. By the time of her senior year, the hype was real. Paige Bueckers became the first female high school basketball player to be featured on the cover of Slam magazine. She won Gatorade Player of the Year, Naismith Prep Player of the Year, she was Minnesota Miss Basketball, and finished as her school's all-time leading scorer in points, assists, and steals. Bueckers, as the #1 player, had the pick of any college in the country. By the age of 14, she already had 5 D1 offers, and in 2019 turned down South Carolina, Duke, UCLA, and many more to play at UConn, the pinnacle of women's college basketball under the legendary 11-time champion Gino Auriemma. Paige became the 11th #1 prospect to commit to UConn and was the program's most hyped recruit since Brianna Stewart, and she proved to be worthy of the hype. In her first year, Bueckers averaged 20 points, 4.9 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and 2.3 steals. She shot 52% from the field and 46% from three-point range. Remember, she was a freshman, and she won National College Player of the Year, becoming the first freshman to ever win it. Unfortunately though, in the Final Four of March Madness, UConn were upset by Arizona, robbing Bueckers of the perfect ending to what would have been undeniably the greatest freshman season in NCAA history. As a sophomore, Bueckers dealt with some injuries, and as a result her production took a bit of a hit. She played in just 17 games but did return in time for March Madness. UConn made the Final Four again, though this time lost in the championship game to Aaliyah Boston in South Carolina. But that summer the trajectory of Bueckers' entire career changed. She tore her ACL during a pickup game and was forced to redshirt the season. It was this year when the Caitlin Clark effect became a thing. Bueckers had to watch from the sidelines as the Iowa point guard took the nation by storm. Bueckers would have her opportunity for redemption though, as she returned for the 2023-24 season. Paige returned better than ever. She averaged 21.9 points, 5.2 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 2.2 steals. She carried UConn back to the Final Four with 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists against USC and Juju Watkins, leading up to a Final Four showdown with Iowa. Paige Bueckers had her opportunity to face Caitlin Clark, and fans would get to see the top 2 guards in the nation face off against each other on the biggest stage. In a controversial game, despite Bueckers' 17 points, it was Caitlin Clark in Iowa that took the W, and yet again UConn were eliminated. At the end of the season, most of the top players in Bueckers' class declared for the WNBA draft, but seeing as she'd redshirted a season and had unfinished business at UConn, Paige decided to return for another year. The pressure is on now. She doesn't want to be the only UConn star to never win a national championship. She'll have another chance to win it this year, but this will be her last chance, because a year from now Paige Bueckers will likely be the #1 pick in the 2025 WNBA draft, and while Caitlin might have stolen her shine for now, Paige Bueckers still has the potential to be an all-time great women's basketball player, and her rivalry with Caitlin Clark isn't over. Matter of fact, it's barely even started. But before we continue, I want to thank Factor for sponsoring this video, because if you didn't know, Factor helps meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering never frozen dietitian approved meals straight to your doorstep. Factor allows you to skip the stress of prepping your meals over the holidays. You're able to choose from over 35 plus weekly flavored packed never frozen meals that are always fresh and support a healthy lifestyle. They also meet your meal preference, are delivered right to your door, and are ready to heat in just 2 minutes. Now my personal favourite is the Protein Plus meals. If you need an extra boost, they have 30 grams of protein or more per serving. And for me personally, trying to take care of my fitness, I've been enjoying the chicken, which tasted amazing. And the best part is it took took just 2 minutes to make, which is super convenient for me because of my busy schedule creating videos. So if you want to get started, head to factor75.com or click the link in the description and use code 50DKM to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50DKM at factor75.com to get 50% off as well as free shipping on your first box. Huge thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video. Now, while Caitlyn has surpassed her now, you can understand why Paige might have been the highest ranked guard. But what will surprise a lot of people is that Caitlyn wasn't the second best guard either, because the number 2 player in the nation was Hailey Van Lith. Growing up in Washington playing at Kashmere High School, Van Lith was a high school star and arguably the best scorer in the country. Her first year, she led her school to a 26-1 record, with their only loss coming in the state championship game. Hailey put up some great numbers as a freshman, and was even better as a sophomore. She recorded the first quadruple double in school history, with an insane 37 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists and 14 steals. That year she averaged 32 points, 8.3 rebounds, 5.2 assists and 7.3 steals, leading her school back to the state title game, but lost again. The same thing happened her junior year. She averaged a career high 34.4 points per game, was Washington's Gatorade Player of the Year, but once again lost in the championship game. As a senior, Hailey was more motivated than ever to finally finish the job and win a state championship, but the pandemic robbed her of the opportunity, making Hailey Van Lith one of the best women's high school basketball players to never win a state title. As a senior, Van Lith was Washington's Miss Basketball. She became the state's all-time leading scorer, was a front-runner for Gatorade Player of the Year, and as a 5-star prospect wasn't short of college offers. During her high school career, Hailey had developed a friendship with Kobe Bryant. She often worked out at Kobe Bryant's Mamba Sports Academy, and she was a huge role model for Gianna Bryant, and she carried the Mamba mentality theme into college. As a freshman at Louisville, Van Lith made the ACC All-Freshman team, won the ACC regular season title, and helped Louisville reach the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament. The next season as a sophomore, Hailey took Louisville one step closer. They made the Final Four of the NCAA tournament, losing to Brink and Stanford. Her junior season was when Van Lith really broke out. She averaged 19.7 points, 4.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists and 1.5 steals. And in March Madness, she took her game to another level, with 4 consecutive 20-point games, leading the Cardinals to the Elite 8, where they ran into Iowa and Caitlin Clark. This was a highly anticipated matchup, and Van Lith dropped 27 points, but that wasn't enough to beat the eventual runners-up. Despite being on pace to become Louisville's all-time leading scorer, Van Lith shocked the basketball world by entering the transfer portal, joining the national champions LSU. This made the Tigers look like a super team, adding one of the best guards in the country to a team that had just won the title. She was the top-ranked transfer in the nation, but this decision was a disaster. Hailey Van Lith did not fit in at LSU, she was benched throughout the season and put up the worst numbers since her freshman year. This jeopardized her WNBA career. This was the number 2 recruit in the nation who was supposed to be a lottery pick, and in her senior season when she was supposed to dominate, she was the worst version of herself. And on the biggest stage versus the Iowa Hawkeyes in the Elite 8, Caitlin Clark went off for 41 points. Hailey had just 9 points on 2 of 10 shooting, but the humiliation didn't stop there. Hailey was chosen to represent Team USA in the 3v3 tournament at the Paris Olympics, and there they lost to Spain and the US had to settle for a bronze medal. It's been a tough summer for Van Lith, but her story is far from over. She's recently transferred to TSU, where she'll have a bigger role and be able to focus on basketball again. And there she'll be hoping to re-establish herself as a lottery pick and be selected as one of the top picks in the 2025 WNBA draft. But in terms of the Caitlin Clark comparison, the gap has never been bigger than it is right now. Next up at number 3, we have the number 2 pick in this year's WNBA draft, Brink. She started playing basketball after being invited to a camp held by her godfather from Charlotte, North Carolina. His name's Del Curry, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, whose son you might have heard of. Brink picked up the sport late and quickly realized she was always meant to play basketball. She won state titles in her first 2 years of high school and was Oregon's Gatorade Player of the Year back-to-back years. After transferring to Mountainside High School, Cameron dominated her senior year, averaging 19.7 points, 13.2 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 2.5 steals and 2.5 blocks. She was a Swiss Army knife who could do anything on a basketball court. but she was also an elite volleyball player. Cameron Brink helped her team win its first state championship in volleyball and could have pursued a pro career in that sport too. But as a 5-star recruit and one of the best players in the country, Brink decided to focus on basketball, and she could have gone anywhere to play in college. Two options stood out to her in particular. She could stay home in Oregon or go to UConn and play alongside Paige Bueckers. The Huskies is always a safe bet for all top recruits. You get to be a part of the most successful program and position yourself to win college titles. And that's why it was such a major shock when Brink chose to play at Stanford instead for more academical reasons than athletic. Weirdly enough, the sporting side worked out too, because Cameron Brink was a standout from day one. She averaged 9.9 points, shot 58% from the field along with 6.6 rebounds and 2.8 blocks per game. She led the entire NCAA in blocks, she was Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, and it gets even better, because in March Madness Brink led Stanford to the national championship game and won the title for the first time in school history. She had an impact in the final too, with 10 points, 6 rebounds and 3 blocks and a crazy 1-point win over Arizona. But despite winning the championship as a freshman, she was only getting started, and Cameron Brink continued to dominate throughout her college career, leading them back to the Final Four as a sophomore. This time though, they lost to UConn. As a junior, Brink was National Defensive Player of the Year after averaging 3.5 blocks per game, becoming the program's all-time leader in blocked shots. That summer, she played with Team USA at the FIBA 3v3 World Cup. She won a gold medal and was tournament MVP, leading the competition in points and blocks again, making Cameron Brink a champion at the high school, international and collegiate level. And her senior year, she played the best basketball of her career, averaging an insane 3.7 blocks, along with 17.4 points, 11.9 rebounds and 2.8 assists. Brink was considered the best forward in the country, ahead of even Angel Reese, and most years would have been the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft. Of course that didn't happen because Caitlin Clark exists, but even still, being the number 2 pick in one of the most stacked draft classes in WNBA history is no small deal. Cameron Brink was selected by the LA Sparks and started her WNBA season strong. Her game translated perfectly. She averaged 7.5 points, 5.3 rebounds and 2.3 blocks, making her an early front runner for the Rookie of the Year award. Everything changed when she tragically tore her ACL, not only ending her rookie season but her goal to play in the Olympics and win gold again. Any ACL injury is devastating for any basketball player, and Brink's recovery will be a long one. It's unclear whether or not she'll be back for next season, and there's always the worry that players, especially those who rely on their athleticism, never come back quite the same afterwards. At 22 years old though, Brink is still very young, and we've seen a lot more success stories with players returning from ACLs in recent years, with Paige Bueckers being a great example. So hopefully Cameron Brink can come back and be her old self, because her potential is off the charts. She can become one of the very best players in the WNBA, and playing with the LA Sparks, she can also reach a level of commercial superstardom off the court that very few women's basketball players have ever been able to achieve. Next up at number 4, we have one of Caitlin Clark's biggest rivals, and that's Kamilla Cardosa. Now it's understandable why she would have been so dominant in high school, the same way she dominated in college. She's 6'8". But despite her height, she actually started basketball very late. Coming over from Brazil, Cardoso joined Hamilton Christian Academy in Tennessee, and it didn't take her long to suss out this basketball thing. She averaged 24.1 points, 15.8 rebounds and 9.2 blocks per game, averaging a near triple-double with blocked shots. That is an insane stat no matter how much taller you are than everybody else. And the fact that she was bigger than most WNBA centers as a high schooler definitely made Cardoso a can't miss prospect. She was a 5-star recruit, McDonald's All-American, and had offers from UConn, Ohio State, Mississippi and South Carolina. She chose to attend Syracuse, becoming the highest rated recruit in program history. Cardoso was a starter from day one. As a freshman, she averaged 13.6 points, 8 rebounds and 2.6 blocks per game, winning the ACC Freshman of the Year award and Defensive Player of the Year also. Cardoso actually only spent 1 year at Syracuse though, before transferring to South Carolina to play under the legendary Dawn Staley. There she took on a lesser role and was Aaliyah Boston's backup. But the individual sacrifice paid off, as Cardoso got to learn, practice and compete every day alongside the best player in the country. She also got a taste of winning as South Carolina won the 2022 NCAA Championship. As a junior, despite still coming off the bench, Cardoso continued to improve. She got more playing time and averaged better numbers than her first year at South Carolina. This year, striving to go back-to-back, South Carolina were undefeated and made it back to the Final Four, hoping to complete the perfect season. Unfortunately for them, they ran into the Iowa Hawkeyes, and this was the game where Caitlin Clark introduced herself to the basketball world on the biggest stage, with 40 points handing South Carolina their only loss of the entire season. And a lot of people thought that with this loss, the run was over for South Carolina. Aaliyah Boston left to go number 1 in the WNBA draft, and a lot of people weren't sure whether Kamilla Cardosa was ready to step up. But she was ready to take over from Aaliyah Boston, and as a senior, Cardoso played the best basketball of her collegiate career. She averaged 14.4 points, 9.7 rebounds, 2.5 blocks and 2 assists. She shot a career best 60% from the field, and South Carolina didn't miss a beat. They went undefeated again and had a chance for revenge against the Iowa Hawkeyes in the championship game, and this time it was too much for Caitlin Clark. South Carolina won this game comfortably, and Kamilla Cardoso, with 15 points and 17 rebounds, captured her second national championship, and this time she was the most outstanding player of the Final Four. Kamilla Cardoso is another one that most years would have been the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft, but with this class being so stacked, she fell to number 3 and was drafted by the Chicago Sky, where she would team up with fellow lottery pick Angel Reese. And while this season her rookie teammate got most of the hype, Kamilla Cardoso had a solid year in Chicago. She averaged 9.8 points, 7.9 rebounds, 1.4 blocks, made the all-rookie first team, and while Cardoso is still a long-term project that has a lot of developing to do before she reaches her final form, you cannot teach 6'8". Once she figures it all out, there's no saying how dominant she could become, and I fully expect Kamilla Cardoso to be one of the best women's basketball players for years to come, and anyone that puts a ceiling on her potential would be silly. Now at number 5 we're kinda cheating, because technically one of the two players I'm about to talk about here wasn't ranked higher than Caitlin. She was in fact one spot lower than her in these rankings. But I cannot tell you the story of Sarah Andrews, the 5th ranked player, without talking about her partner in crime at number 8, Hannah Gusters, because their journeys are intertwined. Starting with Sarah, she was the 3rd ranked point guard in the nation who grew up idolizing one of the greatest college scorers ever, WNBA guard Odyssey Sims, who was also from Irving, Texas and played at MacArthur High School and Baylor University. Andrews was a dynamic guard who was highly rated, known for making everybody better with her passing ability. The other player is Hannah Gusters, a dominant inside post player. After playing together at AAU, they decided to team up, and together Andrews and Gusters became the best duo in high school basketball, as your typical big and small 1-2 punch. Their chemistry together was so good in high school that they both decided to continue playing together, committing to the University of Baylor in 2021. But despite both being projected top 10 picks, the transition to the collegiate game wasn't so seamless. Sarah started just 1 of 31 games, averaging 4.2 points, 1.2 rebounds and 1.2 assists in around 11 minutes of playing time. Gusters didn't receive a single start. She averaged 5 points, 2 rebounds in 10 minutes a game, despite shooting an efficient 64% from the field. A big reason for the lack of playing time was because Baylor were already so stacked. Nalissa Smith, the number 2 pick in the WNBA draft in 2022, occupied the starting forward position, while Dejanay Carrington, who has become one of Caitlin Clark's rivals in the WNBA, was the starting guard. Once those two turned pro, the plan at Baylor was for the MacArthur High School duo to take on bigger roles and showcase their great chemistry together. But that just never worked out. Hannah Gusters grew impatient, so she transferred to Louisiana State, and for the first time the duo was separated. For Sarah Andrews, sticking it out at Baylor was the right decision. As a sophomore, she played almost 30 minutes a night, averaged 11.1 points, 4.5 assists and 2.9 rebounds. Hannah Gusters learned that the grass wasn't greener elsewhere. She ended up in a similar situation at Louisiana State as she did at Baylor, averaging around 15 minutes a game and putting up similar numbers as her freshman year. Gusters redshirted her junior year, transferring again to Oklahoma State. That year, Sarah Andrews had her best year at Baylor, averaging 14.7 points, 4.3 assists and 3.4 rebounds. She became a key and important player. Finally, in Oklahoma back in the Big 12, Hannah Gusters had a breakout year of her own. She averaged 14.3 points, 4.1 rebounds and a block per game, and put herself in position to be selected in the 2025 WNBA draft. This all depends on if she continues to impress as a senior. As for Sarah Andrews, instead of declaring for the WNBA draft after her senior year at Baylor, she's returning for a 5th year. In her postgraduate year, she's hoping to make a lasting impression at the school, and is also focused focused on trying to get picked up in next year's draft. Both players' stories are intertwined, but if all goes well, they'll end up in the same destination a year from now in the WNBA. But the fact that they're still in college, while Caitlin Clark and almost every other player on this list has turned pro, really proves that high school rankings really don't mean much at all. And just because you're one of the best players in high school doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be one of the best in college or the pros. And lastly, at number 6, we have the world's second most famous women's basketball player, and that's Angel Reese. Growing up in Baltimore, basketball was always a part of Angel's life. Her mother played basketball and her brother Julian plays college basketball at Maryland. Angel Reese was a Washington Mystics fan, and from early on, after being inspired by Maya Moore and Candace Parker, she always wanted to play in the WNBA just like her idols. Attending St. Francis Academy, Reese played 4 years of varsity basketball. As a freshman, Reese was so versatile that she played all 5 positions throughout the year, and after averaging 11 points and 11 rebounds, she led her team to a conference title with a 30-1 record. Her sophomore year in high school, she averaged 17.6 points and 12.1 rebounds, leading her team to another conference championship. She continued to shine in her junior year with insane averages of 22.6 points and 19.3 rebounds, the best numbers of her high school career. As a senior, she was just as dominant, captured her 4th consecutive conference title, and she left the school having accumulated a total of 1,720 points and 1,250 rebounds. She left the school as one of St. Francis's all-time greats, and her jersey was retired by the school. As a 5-star prospect and arguably the best wing in the 2020 draft class, Reese had over 24 D1 offers. She was very close to going to Syracuse, USC and South Carolina, but ultimately decided to stay home and attend Maryland. As the hometown hero, Reese had a strong start to her college career, averaging a solid 10 points and 6 rebounds in 15 minutes per game as a freshman, helping Maryland win Big Ten regular season and tournament titles. She started to break out in the NCAA tournament with 19 points against Alabama before losing to the underdog Texas in the Sweet 16. Angel Reese became a starter as a sophomore in what she described as her redemption year, and this was when she became a star, making the Big Ten all-first in defensive teams while leading Maryland to a 4th seed and back to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. There, Maryland were sent home again, this time at the hands of Cameron Brink and Stanford. This season, Reese averaged 17.8 points and 10.6 rebounds a game, becoming the first Maryland player to average a double-double since 1975. But at the end of the season, Angel Reese wanted a change of scenery, so she entered the transfer portal and joined LSU, hoping to be a part of a winning team. This decision turned out to be the best of her career, because Angel Reese dominated as a junior at LSU, becoming one of the best players in college basketball. Throughout the season, she consistently excelled, setting the LSU single-game rebounding record with 28 boards against Texas A&M. She recorded 20 consecutive double-doubles, finished the season with 34 double-doubles, breaking the NCAA record, and her stats were historically great across the board, averaging 23 points and 15.4 rebounds per game, along with 1.6 blocks and 1.8 steals. But Angel Reese really made her mark in the NCAA tournament. She had 24 points and 15 rebounds in the first round against Hawaii. In the second round, she had 24 points, 24 rebounds and 6 blocks against Michigan. She recorded another double-double in the Elite 8, and in the Final Four, she broke the SEC single-season rebounding record with 12 boards along with 24 points in a win over Virginia Tech. In the grand finale, LSU faced Iowa, in what was one of the most iconic games in college basketball history. Angel Reese stuffed the stat sheet with 15 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists, defeating Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeyes to win the 2023 National Championship. This game turned Angel Reese into a household name, and this was when the rivalry between her and Caitlin Clark really started. Angel Reese returned for her senior season, and although her stats weren't as impressive as her junior year, she was still dominant, and won SEC Player of the Year for the first time. Angel led LSU back to the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament, where they faced the Iowa Hawkeyes again in a highly anticipated rematch, which we broke down in detail in this video right here on the channel. This time Caitlin Clark got her revenge, dropping 40 points to end LSU's season and Angel Reese's college career. Despite the loss, Angel was one of the better players in this game, but her 17 points and 20 rebounds weren't enough. Angel Reese then declared for the WNBA draft, but despite being one of the best college players, many scouts doubted that her game could translate to the pros, and that's why she fell to the 7th pick, where the Chicago Sky picked her up. Angel Reese quickly proved her doubters wrong in the WNBA. She was dominant and continued her rivalry with Caitlin Clark into the pros. For months she was in the Rookie of the Year discussion, winning Rookie of the Month in June and even making the All-Star game as a rookie. Angel Reese was historically great. She surpassed her idol Candace Parker's record for the longest double-double streak in league history, she became the first rookie to ever record a double-double in the All-Star game, and she even broke the WNBA's single-season rebounding record. Angel Reese's rookie season was cut short through injury, but she still left a mark, finishing second in Rookie of the Year voting after averaging 13.6 points and a league-high 13.1 rebounds per game. Angel Reese is undoubtedly one of the best young players in the WNBA. She has the potential to be an all-time great and is going to dominate the league for years to come. She is somebody who has proven people wrong every step of the way and will likely continue to do so throughout her pro career. And then at number 7 we have Caitlin Clark, who at this moment in time is quite undeniably the best player in this class. What this list really goes to show is that high school rankings really don't mean too much at all. You have somebody like a Caitlin Clark who was ranked number 7 who went on to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft. You have several players still in college, others are in the WNBA, you just never know. But if you've made it up to this point in the video and want to see more WNBA related content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you will enjoy this video in the middle of your screen right now. So go click that, watch that, and on that note is DKM signing out until next time, and peace.